Happy Wednesday. Oh, that's just my computer. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I have Ari with me today. He's going to show me how stupid I am in Land Insights.
No, not at all. I'm definitely gonna rock your world a little bit though.
I know you're going to be better at it than me. Then that's what I want. Like that's what I want. I want to see. Let's see how much better you are at it than I am. I'm really curious because I know you're amazing at it. I know you're like able to find stuff that I can't. I want to get better so I could be better for my team and everything like that. So I'm stoked to kind of see, like, we've been trying to get this meeting together, just me and you. And I'm like, dude, let's just do it live. Let's show how stupid I am, like live. Let's do it.
No, the crazy thing is that everybody uses. You give anybody the same software, right? 10 different people. Everybody uses it differently. The cool thing is that I have a unique perspective, and I can really see how different land businesses are run, and I'm in a position where I can help all these different people utilize their own strategy, right, coupled with the software, and streamline it for their business. The thing that I've noticed is, no two investors do the same thing, which I think with a platform like Land Insights, you kind of think, oh man, this is really going to. I talk about this a lot lately because I'm really starting to feel it. But you think, man, this is really creating an opportunity for everybody to look for the same markets. But everybody is looking at different markets. Everybody's looking with different eyes, right? Different perspectives, and looking for different types of deals. I'm astounded by how many people out there are just doing infill and do not care to do rural. And how many people don't even want to look at rural. They just want to look for entitlement potential, and they use our platform for that. And the ROI is there when you find an entitlement deal, even if it takes 12 months, right? The platform can be used in so many different ways. It's just finding how to make it work for your business, and making sure you streamline that, not finishing the process or the thought process around it. Like, I found a software, now I can find a good market, now I can get the data, now I can scrub it. It's how do I optimize my business around this all-in-one solution? Because I think a lot of people drop off when it comes to that, and they focus on like the fact that it can help them rather than how can it help you streamline while also help you, right?
Yeah, that was the big thing, because like I started using it because I'm like, okay, cool, this is going to save me time with one task. But now I didn't realize, like, well, now I'm realizing more and more how many more tasks it's saving me time with. So I use it for comping because I could go on there, I could pop a parcel in there, look at what the PPAs are right around that immediate area, like in 2 seconds. It's like crazy. Like a couple clicks of a zoom out button, and you're like, oh, there's all my comps right there with the PPA live.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, this thing
I love it.
This thing is like glue in my land business. We use it obviously for market research for pretty much every reason we've built this platform. I use it for so far, right? Market research, analyzing those markets, making sure we're actually in a good spot once we've found them, going and pulling data, right? Streamlining that, scrubbing that data, pulling that data, marketing to that data is going to be pretty huge, and in the way we can even offer a unique perspective to each lead is our manual scrubbing tool. Not everybody does it, which I think there's probably a point where it starts to make a lot more sense, right? It depends on your strategy. If you're really, really micro, you're doing the sniper rifle approach, like, it's very valuable. Or if you're at the level where it's just like you're doing so much volume that you need another bump in your ROI, or you're trying to unlock more value in your CRM or in your data. It's like, now let me go through all of the data I've already pulled, and let me look at the opportunities one by one, or have someone do that, and use whatever given criteria you give them to find all the subdivides, find all the entitlements, whatever it might be. So
yeah, it's awesome. And I think once the more features come out too, it's just going to get better and better. Like, that's the best thing about it. It's only improving. That's what I love about it. Winner one. I don't know who you are, but hey, winner one. Hey Dennis, do you scrub markets that sell in 4 to 6 months? I still buy there. So what I'm going to do is, like, typically if it's a market that's moving pretty fast, like less than 90 days, I want to offer them probably like 55, 60% of market, because it's a competitive market. But stuff like that, 4 to 6 months, they're a little slower of market. So I'm looking, they might be on market for 6 months, 9 months, something like that. I'm probably going to offer like 50% or 45% for that deal. So I'll still do deals there. It's just like I'm not going to go priority one. Like let's offer them a high price because it's a slower market. It means my cost of capital is going to cost more. Everything like that. Like all those things add up. So you need to buy deeper if a market's a little slower.
So 4 to 6 months. Are you saying 100% sell through in 4 to 6 months?
No, I'm saying scrub markets. It's I don't know. Are you saying sell in 4 to 6 months, or are you saying?
Oh,
I'm
like days
thinking.
on market.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's thinking like what I like when I look at a market. I always go through and I scrub, and then I'll say, okay, how fast is stuff moving? Like how fast is stuff taking to go
Yeah,
pending? And if it's
depending. Yeah.
usually like over 90 days, then I kind of like, I won't make that like an immediate market that I need to hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the cool thing is with Land Insights is you can find a ton of slower markets and still be confident in what you're offering if you're offering a little less, like you said. So
Mhm.
that is, I think, in 2025 going to be a huge unlock of potential where
Yeah.
not everybody out there can even have the comparison between markets, right? You can't
Mhm.
say, compare this market in the northeast side of North Carolina against this one down in the northwest western side, right? You're looking at a very different terrain. You're looking at very different areas, but you can determine if it's fast or if it's slow. How do I adjust my pricing? How quickly
Mhm.
do I, or how much do I want to market to? Do I want to focus on those who are potentially higher motivation, right? Owners who are out of state, whatever it might be. You can adjust everything.
Yeah.
And Land Insights will show you that.
Mhm.
I think that's the trick with Land Insights is I think when people hear about it, it's like, okay, I can go find the hottest markets.
It's
But I
both
think
the opposite.
yeah, it's the perspective's shifting where it's like, it's not necessarily the hottest markets. It's the markets that are untapped, the markets that
Right.
nobody's really looking at. So
Yeah. Like I love looking at a market that had tons of sales, but like very little active.
mhm,
Because what that tells me is like, okay, there's a ton of properties that sold in the past like year or whatever the case may be, but right now there's no supply. So there's demand, but the supply is not there. So if I go bring the
yeah,
supply, the demand will increase, right?
yeah,
So I look at those markets and I'm like, okay, so like let's look at how fast stuff goes pending. That tells me that the demand is there because it's moving really fast, right? So what I use, I'll look at Land Insights and I'll go, okay, let's look at stuff that's sold in the past year. Maybe my STRs aren't great. Like it'll show me crappy STRs because whatever, or it'll show like super high STRs, whatever the case may be. But I look and there's probably like there's probably like 10 or 12 properties that sold in the last year in an acreage range, but there's zero on the market. Well, there's probably tons of demand for that
yeah.
specific type of property. So go get those and find out what zip codes they're in, all that stuff, and then just go find those, pull those, and just market to those. And you'll crush it. That's
Yeah,
like
and
the sniper approach, you know?
I think something else that a lot of people can use Land Insights for that you wouldn't necessarily know. Like if you were looking at Redfin right now and you went to go look at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you're gonna see, how do I put this? You're gonna see data, but you don't necessarily see the overall picture because
Right.
what was 3 months ago, right? We had the election, we had winter, we had the holidays,
Mhm.
all of this stuff that really slowed down the market.
Yeah.
And sellers were holding a little bit longer. Buyers were just pretty silent, for a
Very
lot of us at
silent.
least. Yeah, and so because of that, if you're looking at Redfin, you're just going to miss out on a ton of context. You might say that a county or a market is just not performing when it really is, and then you go to Land Insights, you can see everything, right? So you see that across the board, it was lower in the past 3 months, whereas for the
Right.
past 6 months, it was actually really stable, really consistent and high.
Yeah.
That could be another factor that Land Insights unlocks
Yeah.
that you can't get anywhere else.
Absolutely. Um, well, let's do this. Let's pull up Land Insights and let's start going through some markets and let's show me some tips.
Yeah,
Make them
let's
better.
do it. Really
Um,
quick, I want to answer this question because it's a good question. Experience life, couldn't markets with a ton of sales just be a few subdivides? How can we be sure that the data is painting the full picture? Well, that's the cool thing about Land Insights is now we have a data platform, so you can actually open the market research tool and the data platform together, right?
mhm.
This is a situation that is very real.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're marketing to, right? If you're filtering, I don't know if I can share my screen here, but if
Yeah.
you're
You should be able to go to present at the bottom and then share screen. Let me.
sweet. So if you are, let me share this for you. Experience life. If you're looking at data, it's going to be affected by what you actually select. So, I mean, if we're talking a subdivide that's 10 acres and up, yeah, maybe if you're targeting rural rec land, it's going to be included. But most of the time, if you're not looking at infill, that's not going to pop up. If you are looking at infill, it's very possible. But the cool thing is you can open up the data platform on another tab and just go straight to that market, whatever market it is. Let's just look over here and go to, I don't know, Bastrop County or something.
So while you're looking that up, I'll just answer it too. So like, I agree. Yeah, this is why like Land Insights is going to paint you a picture, and then you have to go in there and look at that picture. You have to look at the sales, right? So you got to look at that stuff and see what kind of sales have been happening. So
yeah,
once you see like some great stuff, if you go look and there's like one subdivide that is all 15 of the sales, well, then there's probably demand for that specific size property in that specific area. Right. It's not like a bad thing. It's just that people maybe only want to buy that. Right. And depending on how fast they move, well, then, yeah, if they're moving like extremely fast, what does that tell you? Go market for 100-acre properties that you could go subdivide and do the same thing in that market.
Yeah, and that's something that you can't really do so easily elsewhere. Is you can straight up just come into our MLS comp layer, add that in. If you're looking at all the comps in a market, I mean, you can easily start to see, is there more for sale or more sold, right? In this market, clearly more for sale.
The blue is for sale, green is sold, red is pending.
Yeah, and pink is pending. I think it's a pink color. But regardless, you can always click those and it'll tell you the status. The cool thing is, if you do find that there is, it's a little town, but if you do find that there's a subdivision or a subdivide of a larger property, it's usually going to be bundled up pretty close together. And you're going to see, okay, perfect. This is, a small fraction of the market. And you can definitely make your decisions by looking at both of these together and deciding, is it worth it?
And Ari, these comps go back 1 year, right?
Yeah. So these comps, I think generally 1 year. Some others might slip in depending on what realtors put on those listings.
Sure.
They might be an older sale that people record more recently, which is a little annoying, but sometimes that happens with price as well. Sometimes it's just hard to get around that if it's obviously been recorded incorrectly. But yeah, that's the concept. So I am curious of one thing, Dennis. Let's talk about your business really quick. How do you look for a market? I think you have your team do this now, but how do you look for a market in general? Are you starting at the state level?
Yeah, so I typically will start with the state in mind, right? That's usually what I start with. So like, let's just say I'm looking at Kentucky, let's say, and I'm looking at that state specifically. Then I'll start there and I'll go, okay, I want to look in Kentucky, and then I want to look for markets that have last sold in the 6 months. I want to see like 10 sold in the last 6 months, and I'll usually look in a specific acreage range between like 10s and 20s or something like that.
Okay.
So if I'm looking for my straight flips. If I'm looking for subdivides in like a state that has, subdivide exemptions, I'll look for that exemption in that state. Like South Carolina is 5 acres. So I'll look at just the 5 to 10s in South Carolina, and I'll see where there's pockets of demand for 5 to 10 acres. And then I go and pull all the data for the 50-acre plus properties with road frontage, and I scrub them out based on road frontage. So like a basic land flip, that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to look, okay, which counties have had, I'll scroll down, and usually I'll take out, like, I'll put a minimum solds in the past 6 months. I want to see at least 5.
Okay.
So I usually do, yeah.
So we're looking at just 1 acreage range right now, but
I always do 1 acreage range. That's like I start with 1 acreage range, because if you look at the total market, it's going to throw a bunch of data at you that's not really going to help you. If you're looking for infill, all that stuff. So I look at 1 acreage range.
So there's definitely a lot of different mentalities you can have when you're looking for these markets. The cool thing is nobody has the same perspective. You're here saying, I want to look at 1 acreage range, find the demand for that acreage range, then double down in the counties that are possibly going to make you a lot of money by going for a larger property and then splitting it up into that area that's in demand, right?
Yeah. Well, there's different ways. We have multiple facets in our business. We have subdivides, we have regular flips, we have different things. So
yeah, absolutely.
If I'm looking for a standard buy for 50, sell for 100, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And then I'll also, in the filters, I'll make sure, like, if it's a 5 acre, I want to see my minimum median, like 5,000 and above, or like 10,000
for
and
what?
above. Median price range. Median price
Oh, just
per
total
acre.
median price. Sold
Yeah,
price per
median.
acre or sold?
Yeah, PPA, sold PPA.
Okay.
Yeah, at least 10,000 per acre is what I want
Okay.
to see, because that means that's a $50,000 property
Mhm.
for a 5 acre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I look.
That's a solid way to do it.
Yeah, I look at that, and then I'll look at do I want to see active? I don't want to see too many active. I like to see if there's less than less than 10 active, right? Less is better, right? If
You're
there's one
looking to
active,
you're
let's
looking to create the
create.
supply in a
I want to
place where there's
create the
already demand.
supply. Exactly. Instead of going to the hot markets where
Yeah.
there's tons of activity, like ton for sale and ton selling,
Yeah.
I want to come into a market that's probably like, I want to create the market that some other land investor is going to come to in 6 months and
Yeah.
say, man, this market's hot. I've already made my money and left. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think looking at the range, I think something just to point out is like these middle data points, the median, anything price per acre related or Gini related, all of this is super, super beneficial when we're looking at a range. So
Mhm.
generally, I'll show someone like, hey, there's a lot of ways to look at this and skin this cat. The best thing that you can do just to understand the concept of looking for a market is understanding if the overall county is in demand, right?
Yeah.
And then starting from there and going down to the range. But I always tell people like there's different ways you can approach this. Looking at a range of data is beneficial if you know what you're doing.
Right.
The issue is that sometimes this can just force you to feel like, okay, I have to market to or I want to market to 5 to 10 for all of these counties, but without understanding the purpose behind it, like you've described, it can lead you down this path
Mhm.
of I don't have a consistent process to find markets. And
Yeah.
that'll basically create this endless loop of every time you log into Land Insights, you're looking for markets in a different way or a new way, and that
Mhm.
lack of consistency is just going to make you feel lost.
I agree.
I think that's why I love the concept of coming up with a game plan. What
Mhm.
do you try to focus for? Is it subdivides or is it multiple things like you mentioned? Is it
Yeah.
subdivides? Is it flips? Once you understand that, come up with a methodology that works for you and then make an SOP out of it. Even if you're a
Yep.
solo operator, so many people will feel like they're not getting a lot done or they're not finding markets consistently in any situation, whether it's Redfin, Zillow, Land.com, or Land Insights, because they don't have the same mentality every time they go to look for a market.
Yeah.
So just creating that for your team is huge. Now, I do love going from the county level, going down to the acreage ranges and vetting that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like creating my own little confidence score,
You could
right?
also look like, you'll see like some counties only certain acreage ranges trade.
Yeah,
So
and
like,
I have a rule of thumb where it's if lower acreages or basically, there's usually a cutoff. If there's no demand for smaller acreage, wherever that cutoff is, I usually try and find it. Right.
yeah.
Once I've found it, I'm saying, okay, I'm not going to market to anything lower than this if there's no demand because I
Right.
can't do anything with that property. But if there's no demand for something larger and there's tons of demand for something smaller, I don't really care. I'm marketing to it all. Right.
Yes.
That's how I can kind of go after flips and subdivides at the same time. But obviously, it's a little less organized if I'm just trying to say, hey, if it falls into my lap, it falls into my lap,
Yeah.
rather than highly targeting those
Right.
subdivides.
Yeah, like we have 3 different SOPs for market research. One is for subdivides, one is for straight flips, one is for like infill, rural infill kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they have
I-
different criteria because they're different types of assets completely, you know?
mhm. Yeah, I
So,
would say it's also probably really good for your team maybe to practice using different heat map data points. Generally, I
mhm,
recommend starting with the far left column, but the reason being is you can start to understand these markets in a new light. Like how much is currently pending is going to show you what that current demand looks like, and I would
right.
compare that to the 1 month. If there are counties that stack up, this is just for 10 to 20 acres, but if
Yeah.
there's counties that stack up and are consistently at the top, let's just call it of the leaderboard, right? Um, for the pending sell-through rate, then the 1 month sell-through rate, then the 3 month sell-through rate. Like you're finding the counties moving the fastest. Is that what you want? Or is it specifically those who are moving fastest between 3 to 6 months? Like you can look, you don't have to be stuck on one heat map data point all the time. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that building an SOP around can get you stuck into, and it can make you think I only need to look at it one way. But
Mhm.
changing how you look at things while trying to just keep a consistent process can really unlock
Yeah.
new markets you never really would have looked at.
Yeah, I'm usually on the sold 6 month or sold 1 year. That's my two,
Yeah.
like, my main heat map ones that I use. And then, because I want to see the total sold, which counties have sold the most in a specific acreage range. And then I look for the median pricing, and then I look for how many have the least amount on market.
Yeah.
But there has to be,
So
something recent, like one pending and no on market. That's probably an awesome market.
yeah, so I do this thing too, where once I've gotten down to a range, if it's a range or a zip code, it really doesn't matter. I'll skip between the two. If there's enough data, then I'll move over to the zip code. But one thing I
Mhm.
love to do is just look at the recency. So if I have pending 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, I'm not going to use 1 month for this example, but if I'm down here and I'm looking at active, I'm comparing that to what's happened in the
Mhm.
last 3 months. Because if I find a county where, it's 13 active, one sold, one pending, and one sold in 3 months,
Yeah.
I'm not that excited. Even
Look at
if,
Harrison County. You got 4 pending right now.
yeah, so this is a good example. I'll look at both of these really quick. Warren versus Harrison. Warren, we have 100% sell-through rate in a year, right? Which sounds
Mhm.
great, 5 and 6 months. And I might market to it anyway. But if we were to compare and we had to choose between Warren and Harrison, 4 currently pending is
Yeah,
going to, for me, it's going to outperform. That's current demand. That's outperforming the last 3 months entirely of Warren County, and it's
exactly.
got basically right now half of the active. That means almost the entire market is about to move.
Right. And
So
that's pending. And that's like a 6 month, it's like a 220%
yeah,
1 year SDR.
yeah, 200.
It's
Yeah.
233. Close enough.
So I wouldn't have done it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely love being able to look at current demand and then compare that to what's happened over a year.
Yeah.
Some of these markets will look like they have no movement over the past 6 months because most of their movement is in the pending or the 1 month stage. And
Yep.
so just throwing those up on your tooltip and bringing them down here to the table is also super valuable because
Mhm.
then you can start evaluating, yeah, does it look good in a year or does it look good in 6 months? But is it currently moving?
Right.
If it has 100% sell through rate in 6 months, but has nothing pending and nothing moved in a month or 3 months, I'm not
Mhm.
feeling that great because even though the last 3 months could have included the election, the winter, the holidays, it does technically show that the demand has gone down, right?
Mhm.
So that's something to take into consideration. I think what I find is most beneficial is just finding a way to get to a place where you qualify something as justified,
Mhm.
justifiable to market to.
Yeah.
In the simplest terms, if you're looking at an entire county, which I love to do, to be fair, it gives me an easy way to look at sell-through rate. I tend to heat map by sold metrics as well.
Mhm.
Pending metrics also get me pretty excited, but I usually just do that as a gut
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, pending
And
is like real-time data. That's awesome because that means like the demand is there right now.
oh
Because
yeah,
if you look at the sell-through rate for 1 year, it's like, okay, great. In a year, it could have 200, 300% sell-through rate. But that might have been last year. There might not be their demand right now.
yeah, and I
Right?
mean,
So
if you
looking
see
at the
some of
pending
these
is important.
counties, yeah, some of these counties have like 200% sell-through rate in a year. I saw 273. I saw 500. So it's like some of these counties that have the most pending are not up there in
Yeah.
terms of the highest sell-through rate, which should tell you something. Some of these counties are going to be up and coming this year where they have a lot of demand across the entire county, and then finding what's in demand is
Mhm.
going through those acreage bands. And I tend to do that on the county level. I
Yep.
tend not to do that on the zip code level. There are some people who do. I mean, that's just a matter of finding your own groove, right? Some
Yeah.
people will price acreage by acreage on the zip code level. If they don't have enough data, it's a matter of figuring out what to do in that case and creating your own path. But
Yeah.
I tend to love going from the county level to the range level to the zip code level and giving it a full sweep
Yeah.
analysis. And the issue with doing this sometimes, I think, like I mentioned earlier, people get caught up and they'll do one county at a time. I think it's valid if you're doing it the way you talked about earlier, but you
Yeah.
also have the opportunity to look at the entire state at once, right?
Mhm.
And this changes month over month. So it's like, look, if you have one process that you're doing over and over again to understand, uh, is this software considered cheating? Bodie, it might be. Um, if you're looking at the entire county and you're going down to the range level, you're able to start just plucking out the best of the best
Yeah.
areas, going to zip codes, analyzing pricing information, just canceling out anything that would have been really hard, especially if you're doing blind offers.
Yeah.
Like the there's inevitably going to be places that you just can't make sense of, especially
Right.
near metros. And there's a ton of people wanting to use this rule of thumb, and I've heard it in other coaching programs, which is just do 2 or 3 counties removed from a major metro.
Hmm.
But the
That's not
issue
always
is,
true because I've done a lot of deals that are in right outside, like in the same county as
Mhm.
a major metro.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, and some of that is considered rural rec land, regardless.
Hell yeah. Half
And
the growth land.
yeah, I mean, I mean, if we want to even go further, maybe it's 5 counties removed from a major metro, right? Or it's just a random county in the middle of nowhere that
Yeah.
has no metro anywhere close to it. If the data is telling you that it's in demand, we don't want to just ignore that.
Right.
The issue is most people can't see this, so this is the leverage that that Land Insights
Mhm.
gives you. I would definitely encourage you guys to use different heat map data points to give yourself a shift in perspective, because sometimes I'll do sold pretty much uh, a majority of the time, and I'll forget that sold is only going to it's only going to be in my confidence in the sold amount is only going to be increased if I can see how much is pending, right?
Yeah.
And it might sway my decision to market to 3 different markets this month versus
Yeah.
next month. So I love doing that. I also love to see how much is pending and then compare it to how much is sold in the 1 month time frame the next month.
Right.
And so there's a lot of stuff you can do here.
Well, let's look at that. What was that? Harris County? Harrison
Harrison,
County? Was it Harrison?
I think it was Harrison. Yeah.
I think it was. Let's look at that county on the data platform. I'd be curious to see the comps.
Yeah, let's do it. So one other thing I want to say really quick before we hop into it
Yeah.
is once you add that county, uh, you really do. If you want to look at that county zip codes, I really recommend filtering for that county before looking at zip codes, because you're just going to get all the zip codes. It's kind of overwhelming at times.
Right.
If we were to just look at Harrison County, we're
Oh,
kind
okay.
of hyper focused on the zip codes
That's super
within
smart.
Harrison County.
I never do that. That's super smart.
Yeah, and then this way you can do a couple different things, right? You can still look at acreage ranges and do exactly what you're doing. You can compare all the zip codes that are not performing. In Kentucky, usually there's not that many zip codes per county,
Right.
but there's going to be some places where you have 10 zip codes, and if 4 of them are not performing, why are you wasting your marketing dollars there,
Yeah, and
right?
look at the median PPA between zip code 1 and zip code 2.
Yeah,
12K to
and
7K. It just tells you like what's going on in Barry that, you know, it's so low.
yeah, and for what acreage range? So
Right.
trying to figure that out could put you in a place where, yeah, it's completely different.
Yep.
So I think that's a super good way to look at it. The other thing is, like, once you've found zip codes, I would add them. If you
Yeah.
like them, add them to your saved markets, and then later on when you need to do uh, pricing, even uh, you're trying to get pricing down, make sure that pricing is easier for your team before you even pull data. Just go look at that county in your, like, without all the noise, or look at all the Kentucky counties without all the noise in your my markets, and just
Mhm.
like switch up your tooltip. Start looking at pricing information. Start
Yeah.
looking at the Genie. I tend to look at Genie and use it as a way to prioritize, like, where I want to go,
So
because
what is the genie on this one and why is genie beneficial? Like what would be a good genie to look for? Be like,
so the Genie is standard deviation. So basically, it's standard deviation of price per acre,
mhm,
and it's within whatever acreage range you're looking at. So it's mostly going to be beneficial when you're looking at a smaller range of data, right? The best case scenario is a low Gini over the course of a year. It's a scale from 0 to 100. So the closer you get to 0, the less deviation there is between
okay,
each property's price per acre. That means if I have one property, it should be 0. There's no deviation.
right.
If there's 10 properties, it's just going to keep going up and up and up. But if the number gets higher in terms of how many comps you're looking at, and the Gini gets lower, you're looking at a very homogeneous market, right,
Right.
for that acreage range.
That's why
Uh,
you want to have a filter that says I want to see at least 10 sold and in 6 months and a 10 6-month genie.
yeah, and I tend to like looking at Gini and price per acre information in the same go. If I'm looking at a county, I can easily hop between the different acreage bands and see, okay, 5 to 10 is extremely easy to price in
Yeah, it's
Harrison County.
13. Yeah,
That out
19
of 100,
out of
mind you.
100. Yeah.
So, as you go and you look, it's like this is a pretty
Wow.
homogeneous county.
That's a super homogeneous market actually.
Yeah. And
So that would tell me like that's going to be super easy to price. How many data points are there?
So that's the easiest thing you could do is come over here straight to Harrison County. I tend to have a template that I've already built out for my team.
Yeah.
But you can come in here, do exactly what you're looking at. I just noticed that pretty much everything in this county is doing decent. I don't generally market 2 to 5 acres, but
I'll do some like 3s and 4s. It just depends on the PPA. So
yeah, I mean,
18K PPA at a 4
it's
acre, you're
decent.
talking about a 80K property.
Yeah,
I
so
call
it's
that.
decent. If you're getting that at 30 to 40K, I mean, you're winning. So
Yeah.
I don't mind doing 2 to like 100. Let's just 2 to 100 acres here. Pretty sure I saw 40 to 100 is doing well, and it's
Yeah.
Kentucky, so I know people want their land.
Yeah.
Yeah, so immediately do this. If we come in here, there's a lot of different ways you can get to the data set you want. You can use max improvement percentage. This is the luxury of landed sites. You can use max improvement percentage along with total structure square feet or count. That's going to give you, it's all based on county data, right? Some counties have bad data. So it's going to give you some properties with structures. That's why we built out this vacant land only AI. And this is going to just use our building layer coupled with county data to make sure you're only ever getting data that has max 700 square feet structures on it. So
Gotcha.
this is always going to be more accurate. But some people don't want to play that game. Some people want to go by the county data. It's completely based on what you want to target. And once you do this, you'll start to notice nothing has a structure on it. You can double check that with our building layer.
That's pretty sick.
So yeah, so this is going to be a great way to interact with the map.
You can see it's actually like yellow squares on anything that has a building. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, so it's pretty prominent. It'll help you understand exactly where the properties you're marketing to are. Now, this is 2 to 100, and we're on just vacant land, and there's only 815 in this county. This county is relatively small, just in comparing it to other places, but we're also looking at um, Kentucky, and I feel like I've looked at Kentucky only a number of times, and there's not a lot of data in Kentucky, and I found out that a lot of these properties, like this, looks tiny, right? This property is 103 acres.
Yeah,
which is absolutely massive.
it's a lot of big open land there.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous because this is, I mean, that 100 acres looks big, but then you see 127 acres. Like a lot of these properties that I'm capping this list off at when there's probably a lot of demand. If we leave this empty, we're getting probably only 50, 60 properties more. But the beauty is you're targeting very specific deals, right?
Right.
Whether
You
it's
also
like
remember
subdivided deals.
a lot of these larger acreage properties probably are for a specific purpose. So they're going to have a barn or farm or something like that. So like something like this, I would actually probably pull this a little bit different. I'd probably pull from like 2 to like 30 acres with that, or probably 2 to 40 acres, and scrub it with the AI to scrub out any buildings. And then I would pull like 41 acres and above. I'd probably scrub that based on county data, because if it has a barn on it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
If it
especially
has
if it's
like a
larger and you're doing a
horse
subdivide.
stable, yeah, horse stable, things like that, I'm okay with that stuff. So I'd be curious to see like how many parcels were not showing up because of that.
So I think that's something that you bring to the table that I think a lot of other people can learn from, is that creativity, that perspective of how can I change the situation, even just pulling 40 and up. Oh, I'm okay with a small structure, right? If I agree with the seller, yeah, well, you have your house on the property and it's 103 acres. Sure, yeah, I'll subdivide it off and then buy the rest of the land and then
Right.
subdivide it, right? Like that creativity, I think, is absolutely crucial because it's 2025. People have been doing the same concept in land investing, and yes, it does work, but that's how you get ahead. That's how you get these opportunities nobody else is looking for.
Look at that giant parcel to the right of your screen, top right. So look at that big parcel. How many acres is that? No, to the left of it. Go to the left. Slide it to the left. Other left. The other left.
Other left. This one.
Other left. That left right there. Yeah. So it's 83 acres. Look at the size of those little things on there.
Yeah.
Those little buildings.
Tiny.
They're tiny. That's taking up like 3% of the total property.
Yeah, and they're just using it maybe for grazing or something.
Yeah, you can see there's cattle on there and stuff like that. So that's probably like a place for the cattle to go in the winter and all that stuff. So like I'd still buy that 100%.
Yeah.
So scrubbing that out would actually kind of hurt you. So like, yeah, I think you do have to be creative when it comes to pulling this data. It can't just be like, hey, these filters are here. Let me just use them. I'm going to be an expert now. No, you also have to know how to manipulate the filters to your,
and what's funny is we built this in like a matter of a week and a half. Like we started getting a lot of people saying, I'm getting all these structures on the data I'm marketing to. Well, I think there's a time and place, like you're saying. So using this sometimes and other times not, you'll realize like, look, these are the structures that are getting taken out. If you have access from an easement out here, like you can easily chop that parcel in half, and I'm sure that would still sell in Kentucky, especially for hunting purposes, right?
Yeah.
So there's so much opportunity out here. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I would generally also like the cool thing about pulling your land here or pulling your data here is you can target different zoning now. You can target different land use. We know some investors will literally just target like rural residential, or they'll just target RVs, like stuff that is permitted for RVs, stuff that's permitted just for commercial, industrial, and they'll try and rezone. So there's a lot of different angles you could take. I'm not saying that everybody has to go and find a creative niche, but it happens over time. It really does. And I think one of the most efficient things you can do is, I'd say it's twofold. Pre-scrub. So scrubbing is like twofold for my team. Is we have exclusions in our keywords. So we'll come in here and put in all the normal like oil, gas, United States, whatever it is, and we just we beef up this list and build a template out of it, right? And then once we use that to scrub.
Can you put multiple in there? Can you put like oil, comma, gas, comma, United States, comma?
I think you can actually. Those are both added. So hold on.
Do church, library.
Yeah, so you'll add them.
Okay, so cool. You could actually just create a template and they could copy and paste
it in there.
Done.
Much smarter than me, Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. I've got to say probably like 60, 70 keywords that I avoid. So that'll shave down the list quite a bit. And just so we can compare like the vacant land only against max square footage, same square footage that it works off of. Let's just see if it's much different. I'd say 5%. We're looking at less actually.
Well, I'd be curious too, because you have to put out all that stuff. But yeah, I'd be interested too, because some of these, like if you think about a barn, right, a 40 by 100 foot barn, that's huge. That's a huge barn, but that's like so common for a farm.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it could be a barn that's completely collapsed. It just still has the structure there, right? So scrubbing that out sometimes isn't. I don't know. That's a hard one to scrub out. But I'd almost say like I would not put a filter on.
Looks like a barn.
Yeah, 100%. That's a barn. Yeah, absolutely. I would almost take off that completely on like 40 acres plus in this specific area.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can see the proof that it works here. I mean, this is a property here that probably would be worse of a shape than this one, to be honest. So you could definitely make a deal happen out here doing that. But yeah, this is Kentucky. There's not much. I got to be honest. In terms of data, I have time after time seen that Kentucky has less data than the surrounding states. If this were a county in Wisconsin, Minnesota, like you're going to get a lot of data, and that's the cool thing. So I would say the number one trap that people can fall into is like find a great market and then you scrub it to hell and you end up with like 200 data points, and it'll make you feel like you got to work 10 times harder in order to get the business done. There's a couple things to remember, but I do want to give some feedback and some help. The things to remember: you're getting like hyper high quality data, right? So it's pre-scrubbed. You've looked at it. You know that it's data you want to market to. Building your business off of that, it's a numbers game. So yes, it might be less, but as long as it's high quality data over time, that's always going to stack in your favor.
Yeah.
The other thing is, this is pre-scrubbing. Like you're scrubbing this with our platform as well, maybe using at least the landlocked scrub. That's going to increase the value of this list over time as well. But on top of that, you're able to see the benefits, especially if you're doing mail, of this data over time.
Yeah.
Other forms of marketing aren't going to plant seeds as well as mail does, but
Mm-hmm.
those seeds will blossom. I'm still getting leads from a year ago,
Yeah.
and I like to put it this way, and I've said it to a couple of people, and I like how I frame it. But basically, you're building rapport the longer they hold on to your letter, and there are people out there that have your letter right now on their fridge that you just don't know have it, right?
Dude, I
You
literally got
never
a
would have known.
I got a subdivide lead that came in, and he goes, "Yeah, I put your letter up there in November, and I just called you up because now I'm ready to sell." That was 5 months ago, like,
Yeah.
or 4 months ago, whatever it is, and like it's a crazy deal. It's like, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
what's
they
happening.
and yeah, there's only a couple of marketing channels that'll do that, and mail is absolutely one of them.
Yeah,
So I think the issue is like a lot of people start out, and if they run into a tool like Land Insights, maybe they give it a go, but it's slow going.
right.
And the issue with that is really it comes down to just patience. I
Hmm.
know it was slow going when I started sending out my mailers, and I wasn't scrubbing at all back in
Yeah,
2023.
same.
And when you're first starting out, I mean, it's a ramp up period. Yes, you'll get leads, and especially if you shovel money into marketing a heavy volume, like yeah, you'll get leads. You did the 90 day 0 to hero,
Hmm.
but if you're only able to get out 2,000 mailers a month or maybe less, right? You have a W-2, you have a family, you have all these other commitments. It's a numbers game. You're
Yeah.
just going to need to be consistent.
Yep.
So I would
You-
I would say that the other thing though that I think people forget about is this was great. We found Harrison County, we got to it, and we could pull the data right now.
mhm.
But
That's 763 parcels we can mail today.
yeah, today. But the thing that I think a lot of people feel like can be a trap is like, okay, now I got to do this 7 more times in order to get to my volume.
Yeah.
Okay, how is it going to be the easiest process if you don't have a built-in process that you already have memorized, you've gone through and created an SOP for? Most solo
Hmm.
operators, including myself, didn't want to build SOPs because I didn't feel like I needed them. But then it becomes 10 times harder to hire and
Hmm.
delegate if you don't have those SOPs already built.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend just recording yourself on Loom, going and
Loom
doing
all
this
day.
Mhm, all the time. If you don't have a pro Loom account, you got to get one.
Hmm.
I use it all the time, and I don't even send anybody the videos. Sometimes I just do it for myself. So, um,
Yep.
I
Somebody will look at it. I think my Loom library has like 1,000 recordings in it,
yeah,
and I think only like maybe 40 of them are SOPs that we use.
yeah. I got a badge in Loom. They sent me a badge in January saying I was amongst the top 3% of editors in all of Loom's library, like user base. So I was
Yeah.
like, shoot, I'm spending way too much time in Loom. But I did build the Land Insights course, to be fair.
Right.
Um, but I just do this because it helps me understand where I find efficiency, right? There are going to be times when I'm recording the loom and I'm super, super slow. I can record looms and watch them at like 2 times speed. And if I'm going super slow, I'm going to realize it really immediately and say, okay, I don't like this part of my process and I can change it. If I'm going
Mhm.
extremely fast and I pull data extremely fast for a county and I realize I did something different for that particular county, I want to bake that into my process so that I'm always doing the same thing. Now, again, there's different ways that you can use Land Insights, looking for subdivides, looking for flips, looking, for different acreage ranges. But as long as you build an SOP for your model, you streamline how quickly you can do this. The easiest way that I found is I look at states individually. I'll look at the counties in that state. I'll go and look at the acreage bands all together across the state. I'll look at zip codes across the state, and I'm doing that in stages. And
Mhm.
so that's the easiest way I've found at a macro scale. But there are so many things that me personally, right? And I love Land Insights, but right now I just don't have the time to go do it at a micro scale, and I want to one day. Is
Yeah.
you can do what you're doing where you're going into the individual range and you're evaluating price. You're evaluating the different ways to
Yeah.
benefit from the data points we have available
Yeah.
rather than just doing this at a macro scale, seeing how much volume you can get out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we've created like SOPs and spreadsheets now of everything. So like we have um we'll go to a market, we'll pull the market, we'll check demand, we'll see the demand in that market specifically, and then we give a rating of 1 through 5 based
Yeah.
on like what acreage ranges are trading the best and have the most value for us, all that stuff. Now we find the data from here, but then what we do is we pull it in, we integrate it into our own pages, our own site, our own stuff. And then we look at manually, we look at the pendings and how fast stuff is going pending. Because that's not a data set we could get on Land Insights. I don't even know if that's something we could even add as a feature.
It's definitely hard. It's hard to
It's not something that like is aggregated on a spreadsheet. If we pull
no,
that data, it'd have to be manually scrubbed, and there's math involved. It's actually difficult.
yeah, and I want to add, like, you're doing so much to get that data set, right? And then
A
qualify
lot.
it. So when you're doing all of that and then you have that data, I'm almost certain you do this already, but
Yeah.
so many people out there, I'm finding this out, and I think it's just because nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
In LIA, we talk about it, but I don't think it's common. Remarketing is a thing.
Oh, dude, we remarket like crazy.
Yeah, remarketing's
Once
a
you
thing.
own that data, like you buy once, cry once kind of thing. You own the data. You know it's good. Like
Yeah, don't give up on that market just because maybe you didn't get the deal that you wanted.
Yep.
It's funny because I've talked to a couple people recently who have done, 30 deals, 40 deals, and they haven't remarketed once, which means they
Crazy.
must have hopscotched around the entire United States finding every single deal they've done.
Do you know how difficult it is to run volume with a business like that if you're constantly looking for new markets every single month?
Yeah, I mean, even
It's
if you're not trying to
crazy.
do volume though, that's such valuable data that will help you reach your goal over
Yeah.
time much faster.
Right.
You've already, like you said, you've already done all the work.
Yeah.
So I like to do that every quarter, but I know people who have done it every month, and it's like
Yeah.
that's how people know. My in-laws, I think, receive, and it's on their home, but they literally receive a letter every single month from
Mm-hmm.
a wholesaler,
Yep.
and they say, hey, if we're ever in a pinch, we know exactly who to call. We have him on our fridge, like they know his name, first and
Yep.
last name.
Yep.
So it's crazy. You hit these people up all the time. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to build that rapport. They're going to recognize your name. They're going to know you're the real deal, right? Who sends 2 letters, 3 letters, 4 letters, 5 letters
Yeah.
if you're not the real deal?
Yep.
So
They actually show like the your response rate and everything goes up after, I think it's like after the 6th time that somebody receives a letter. That's when your response rate for that specific person. Like if you look at your KPIs and you track each time your response rate is up, the 6th time is typically when people most people start to convert and actually call.
yeah.
So what does that tell
That's
you?
for
You have
sure.
like at least 6 touches you have to do. So
Yeah.
58 cents a letter, it takes a little while, but totally freaking worth it. Yeah.
So I would also want to add, like, things don't stop there. The benefit that I don't know if you've used our double close realtor reports yet.
I have. I got connected with a few realtors, but they looked at one deal and they're like, "Yeah, it's not. We don't want to list it." So
Yeah, we definitely have. We're trying to build this database out and continue to add to it. I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there who's got a larger double close realtor database,
no,
right?
absolutely not.
The issue is that we not every deal is perfect for every realtor,
But
and I
that's
think we
the
know
goal.
that in general. But
Yeah,
uh, but I think that's the benefit of being able to take a deal to someone and say, hey, if I ever have deals in your counties, like, we know we can make some money together.
hmm
And you can just start streamlining this where you're going and pulling. And I don't have a realtor report up that that might have a double close agent. I don't want to just pull one up and one already be chosen, but Kentucky, probably somewhere in Kentucky. Let's see if I just type in Harrison County.
yeah,
You can see how many realtors there are. Boom,
yeah.
you
There's
have
one
a
right
double
there.
close agent here. I mean, I haven't reached out to them or anything, but this is the cool part is this used to take me I mean, sure, maybe a couple minutes or 30 minutes or an hour a day just to reach out to a bunch of people, but it would definitely take me days to find the person that
Yeah,
I
build that relationship, all that stuff. It takes
uh-huh.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, and a lot of people, this issue comes up is like, you know, should I trust them with giving them the full contract that I signed? Should I
right.
tell them the offer price? Do I trust them? All these things like that. Once that is built, once that rapport is built, I think you're in a much better situation long term. The cool thing is we've done a lot of the vetting in getting these double close agents on the same page, and
Nice.
they're good people. So I'm excited to see how I can even just take advantage of it in my own business in 2025. I'm excited for it. Otherwise, I do love having a scorecard, right? Like if I'm just doing a flip, I love using the scorecard by brokerage or by agent.
I
I
usually
will
go
give
by
you,
agent specific. Yeah.
yeah, I will say one tip: if you're good on the phone, if you feel like you have a good likability score, right, you can hop over to the broker, call the broker up. The broker
Mhm.
basically owns and runs that team, right? So if the
Yeah,
broker's on your side, you've unlocked how many different agents?
it's true.
So
One thing I usually stay away from is the auction group people. Do you ever
mhm.
have success with those agents?
I have had good success
Yeah.
with them, but mostly because they're familiar with dirt work.
Yeah.
So, there's some properties I've gotten where I need to level, I need to clear, and I found that those auction groups, they have a lot of connections.
They
Um,
do. You're right. I never
so
even thought about it like that.
yeah, so I've definitely spoken with them from the investment side, and I've always painted a good picture about what we're trying to do. Obviously, we're trying to create opportunity for new homeowners or people who want to own land in that area. Also, at the same time, help a seller, and it's yeah, um, it's definitely sometimes hard because they're like, well, if you put it up for auction with us, we could do something else, and I'm sure that might be beneficial in some world. I've never done that,
Yeah, I've
but
never done that.
they are both, right? They're usually a realty group that also does auctions. And I,
Mhm.
I tend to think that they take their leads as they come. Like some will be, let me auction it off. Some will be, let me list it. And I tend to find that, even if it's double close, a lot of those auction groups will be open to the idea of working with an investor.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think they're just attracted to money, to be honest with you, though.
Yeah. It wouldn't be, right? I'm gonna
Yep.
serve you 3 to 4 deals a year, like, if not more. Okay, cool. Let's work
Yeah.
together.
Well, I think the best thing you can do is just ask at the brokerage level as well. Just like ask what counties you work. I think a lot of people miss that. They get
I
a
always
lead
do that, yeah.
and they use the realtor as a means to the end for that deal, and they forget about the realtor. And if they come
No.
back, it's because they have another deal. But the unlocked potential is using that realtor as a partner, right? You
Yes.
did a good deal, you liked each other, they sold it in a matter of however long. Now it's your opportunity to ask them where is hot to you. You can go vet it. Go vet it with Land Insights. Make sure they're not kind of
Yep.
just blowing smoke. But the beautiful thing is if you can get that relationship and build deep roots in that relationship, you could be doing deals with that person all the time. Matter of fact, they
That's
might
always
even
what I
send
do.
you deals.
That's always what I do is I look for if I'm moving to a market, I wanna find a good realtor in that market, build that relationship because that relationship could pay dividends, you know?
Mhm.
Also too, is like, I'm gonna have properties that I've overpriced. I'm gonna have properties that the seller wants market for. Okay, great. That's still a deal, right?
Yeah.
It's not a deal for me, but I could pass that to my agent. He can go make 15 grand and list it
Yeah.
on the market. Why
Yeah.
not? But am I gonna get anything for that? Maybe not. I usually don't even ask, but a lot of agents will kick you back something.
Yeah.
But
Send you some
also
Judy's cookies.
right. But also, as soon as they're looking to like, as soon as you bring another deal to their plate, they're gonna be like, "Yes, Dennis, whatever you need, man. Thank
Yeah.
you." Like, because you went above and beyond and said, "Hey, I don't have a deal for me, but I have a deal for you." Right?
Yeah.
It's like that go-giver mentality, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
I do
really
think
helps
that's
a
very
lot.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they whether they want to or not, they reciprocate it. It's
Yeah.
hard not to care for someone who goes out of their way to share with you, right?
Yeah.
And I we tend to see that in a lot of our relationships with realtors as well. Uh, we could have gone and done on one of our subdivides, we could have gone and done a percentage commission. And instead, we just said, hey, we want to take care of dispo. Can we do a flat fee? Guy did not mind at all. And so, as long as you have those relationships built out, like that's the flexibility that you can have.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend it. But Kentucky's one example. It's funny because there's a lot of people that are missing out on some places that just seem like they're flying under the radar. They just seem like there's not a lot of activity, um, and I think that looking at those states it's funny because there's some people who only work in those states. Not to put anybody's markets out there, but Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Utah, like
Yeah.
these are places where sometimes it's hard to get the data. Like Utah, it's a non-disclosure, but these are the places where once you start looking at the sales, things start making sense.
Yep.
And I love doing this at the zip code level as well. So, yeah, I would say, you know, the cool thing about Land Insights is you can go anywhere. The whole
Mhm.
United States is your playing field. I think the issue that a lot of people run into is just knowing where to go. And I would honestly say there's no reason to not go anywhere unless there's no comps, unless there's
Yeah.
no activity or
Unless you,
demand.
or if your plan is to only double close or whatever the case may be, then stay away from specific markets.
Yeah, for sure. There's going to be areas that you can't avoid, but I
Right.
think that a lot of people will ask that question of like, how do you choose a state? How do you choose a county? Um, the data should point you always in the right direction, even at a large macro scale. If you're looking at this, if you're just looking at the entire United States, which I seldom recommend, but if you are, and you just look
Hmm.
at, sold comps, you're going to start noticing there's certain states that just have not a lot going on. So
Hmm.
don't. That's immediately a nudge in the right direction where you know where to avoid, right? And then as you start looking further and further, you start looking at a specific state that you say, hey, there's actually a pretty decent amount sold here. You start looking at the county level and you do the same analysis as you break it down.
Hmm.
If you're doing it range by range, you're going to start finding that there's less data, but you're going to come to quicker conclusions, right? If you're looking at 5 to 100 acres, just know it might look great, but then when you break it down to a 5 to 10 acres range, there's not much happening at all. You kind of question how can that be the case if the whole market's doing well, and that's because there's certain demand for certain ranges. So, I do like your approach of going range by range and saying, okay, where's the demand in the
Yeah,
first
I
place?
like doing that. I like going range by range because it gives me a feel for the market too. Because if there's
Yeah,
no demand for the 5 to 10s, then why would I market to that?
Yeah,
Right.
something that's really fun, and I don't think a lot of people do it, even using Land Insights, is go to the places no one else is going. Where's no one else going? The places with low sell-through rate. And
Yes.
and it's low sell-through rate in comparison, not just low sell-through rate, but low in comparison to the markets around it. If you're looking at one state, you can then go and say, okay, well, where's the lowest sell-through rate in any given state, and compare it to the rest and say, okay, well, I know this is going to have the least amount of people. Let me go deeper into that state, look at acreage ranges or zip codes, and see where is there actually activity or demand. Now, it's not always going to check out, right? Like you might find Chesterfield County, South Carolina has nothing going on,
Hmm.
but you might also find that it bumps up from a certain acreage. Um, and that's the beauty of being able to look at this data. It clearly seems like 20 to 40 acres in Chesterfield County, while there's not that much data, is more in demand. And then as you get to 40 to 100, it's like, boom, I just found an acreage range that clearly sells through.
Hmm.
And, while it's only 83% in a year, 50% in 6 months, and there's only six active, that's a pretty solid amount of data to go off of there.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody's really doing this. I think this is why it's in 2025, like creativity is the name of the game.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. We've
and
changed so many things for 2025. It's crazy. Like I haven't even I don't bring it up in the calls. A lot of the stuff I've changed, but
well,
it's nuts.
yeah, and I find that it's a fine line, right? Like
Yeah.
the cool thing is if you can break it down by zip codes, then break it down by zip codes. But if you know that an acreage range is overall performing, I won't even look at zip codes. I'll just go ahead and focus on
Yeah.
all of them for that range. But you're right. I think there's a fine line on sharing all the creative stuff that you do for
Yeah.
your own
You
business.
can't share everything.
Um, I have that issue myself. Like I do want to share, but at the same time, there is so much that you as an individual can bring to the table just by looking at this map differently than me.
Well, not only that too, but I don't like to share everything because if I share everything and people start replicating it, it's not that they're going to take away my success. It's that they're going to put their view on they're going to put their spin on my stuff and their success might not be the same as mine. So I don't want to share my information and then see them fail
Yeah,
because
I
it's
mean,
a different type of marketing or whatever. Like I've had
I
people take my contract and they're like, "Hey, I used your contract. It didn't work." It's
yeah.
like, well, who told you to take my contract?
Well, I think there's general concepts that will always be sufficient to get a deal, but I agree. I think some of the very niche ideas, like the let me, um, I don't know. I think there's a lot that everybody can do. I think at the end of the day, this is a numbers game, and
Always.
the same people who want to copy what you're doing are not going to wait around long enough
Mhm.
to see even their hard work, all the hard work they've put in, even if it
Yeah.
is based on, they say, hey, I want to use your contract. Doesn't matter to me as long as they're doing volume over time and being consistent in their own world, right? If you have a W two,
Yeah.
you have kids, you have a wife, or a husband, you're just not blessed with as much time, right?
Yeah.
That
I
time
know
of your
you
life
see all
is
these
far gone.
we look at a lot of these 20-year-olds that are crushing it, and it's like, how are you crushing
Yeah.
it? Oh, you're 20, you have, you're single, and
You're at your
it's like
parents'
you could,
house.
yeah,
You
no
don't have
kids, and
possession.
like
Yeah.
that.
You're eating
It's like
ramen.
you literally have everything at your advantage. It's like that's why you see so much success, and it's a great thing. I love to see it. I'm
Yeah.
not bashing them. It's just like me and you have a different amount of time.
Yeah,
Like
but
honestly,
imagine just us starting out right now.
yeah,
The What I would tell myself if I were starting out again with a W-2, with a family, with limited time and other responsibilities, of course, you got to get groceries, you got to go do the chores, right?
yep,
All these things that stack up that a 20-year-old might not do. Like, if I were starting again, I would just tell myself, be patient, be
be patient.
consistent.
Be
Like,
consistent is the number one thing.
it's not land is not like
It's not fast.
it's not fast. It's not like wholesaling. Even
No.
wholesaling, you have to move fast in wholesaling.
Yeah.
When I was trying to wholesale in California, it's like if I slowed down, I would be
Yeah.
wasting money. And now with land, it's like if I try and speed things up, I tend to trip up. I tend
You
to
actually
mess up.
waste money the other way. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like just let your marketing season, build processes over time, make sure you know what you're doing and build a consistent process so
Yep.
that you're doing the same thing time and time again. And once you feel confident in your process, and that you can do it consistently, just wait,
I also
wait.
say leave yourself some flexibility to change
Yeah,
because you're gonna change things as you go. And it's really hard to build a rigid process that this is the only thing you're doing.
yeah,
And then 6 months down the road, you're like, yeah, that didn't work that great. Let's change it. And then everybody in your team is like, yeah, I don't want to change. I'm used to this. Well, if you
yeah,
built like a rigid process, it's tough. But leave yourself some kind of flexibility in your business to adapt and move to different things. Like that's
yeah. And
really
I,
what you gotta do.
I would also say, like, don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Never.
I did this thing early on where I hopped from state to state to state, and I just bunny hopped around until I got my deals. And I quickly started realizing if I go deeper in one place, it could be more beneficial. But what did I do then? I think I like only focused on North Carolina, and I sent like all my marketing to North Carolina. And when I had a bad month, it was a bad month, right? Like
Yep.
nothing happened. And so I while I love going deep and not as wide, I would say always keep
I do like
your
an 80-20 to that.
yeah, like keep your marketing a little bit spread out in places you feel confident, because Land Insights gives you that flexibility. You shouldn't just let that go entirely. And then if you're able to be flexible, you can pepper in anything. It doesn't have to be a county. It could be a zip code. If you find a random zip code in the middle of Texas that you're like, dude, this is performing,
Yeah,
you can pepper that stuff in. I wouldn't say
absolutely.
that your whole marketing campaign should be based on random zip codes in random states.
No.
Uh, but I think having places that it's kind of part of your dream list, right? Oh, if
Mhm.
I got a deal here, I would absolutely love it. That's the kind of stuff that I pepper into our
Yeah.
marketing, and I'm okay if I don't get a lead there, right? Uh, if I get a lead there, I know I really want to close it. So,
Mhm.
I hope this has been helpful.
I think
But
it has. I think honestly, it's good to like see another person's like view on it because everybody does things their different way. It's awesome
yeah,
to kind of have you look at it and say, "Hey, this is how I would do it. This is how I would change it." Because it helps, man. It really
yeah.
does.
Well,
Hmm.
I'm big on segmenting everything. So for
Yeah.
you, I noticed like you use the median here. I tend to do like one analysis here, and when I want to do my pricing analysis, I only look at my markets. So and the benefit of that is I'm not looking at any of the noise. Like I can just go to Michigan and only look at Michigan, and just go to Maine and only look at Maine, and I'm looking at all the pricing information for everything individually, right? And then I'm focusing on it separately so that I'm doing that everywhere all at once rather than
Mhm.
going super, super deep. The cool thing is, if you need to pull data immediately, just go look at a county, go look at the acreage ranges, go look at the zip code, pull the data. Boom. It's the
Mhm.
fastest thing in the world. If you have more time, I would consider segmenting things, building a process around doing one thing at a time. Like I would say in the past, I did Market Mondays, like Sumner teaches,
Mhm.
and I would just for 4 hours just go really deep and try and get as many counties. But when I didn't get all of the counties that I wanted to market to, I felt like I was leaving room for improvement. I would let myself down.
Yep.
Now I just segment time. I time block and I say, well, I want to go look for states that I like. Okay, now I want to go look for counties I like. Now I want to go look for zip codes I like. And once I find that, it's like now I want to go segment time for looking through my markets and looking at pricing that I'm okay
Right.
with. And the cool thing is with Land Insights, you have so much to look at that you shouldn't be running into an issue of I don't have enough data. There's a ton of people who do at times feel like there's not enough data out there. But
Hmm.
again, you need to build a process to find it more efficiently. And you need to remember you're always dealing with higher quality. It's, a year ago, nobody was scrubbing. So
Yeah.
if you're
Nobody.
comparing, if you're comparing a year ago to today, it's like if you're scrubbing 40, 50% of your list away, it's already data you would have never wanted to market to.
Right.
So you're saving a ton of money and you're looking at markets you would have never looked at, right? So it's a double whammy. It definitely stacks up. I also use campaigns for a couple different things that I don't think other
That's like
people
your Scrum
use.
board.
Yeah, so you can use it for it's a Kanban. Yeah, you can use it for just tracking things. The way my team uses it is I will have I'll have basically what I want to target in the in progress. My
Hmm.
VA will come in here, actually grab it, and then move that over as she prepares it to the prepared. And once we've sent that out, it's just moved over, so I can
I
easily
love it.
track everything that we've pushed through.
Yeah.
There's other ways to use this though, right? You can use it for notes and adding things in here, exactly who and what you want to target, the best things in that market or the worst things in that market,
Hmm.
and then you can also show the data points that you've been using. You tend to use the market research map for subdivides, but this is also a great opportunity to go find the markets that you love the most and
Yep.
see if there's a delta between one acreage range and another, and see
Hmm.
how if you're looking at data points like let's just take all this off, like Genie. So let's just look at all Genies besides a month, and let's look at price breaker range over, you like 6 months. Let's do 6 months. Let's sandwich
Hmm.
median between 6 months max and min. And now we're able to kind of see it like, okay, here's the max, here's the median, here's the min. Um, and I believe that's price per acre as well, median price per acre. So now that we're looking at that, it's like now we can just go hunt around for the places that have a huge delta between acreage ranges and see
Hmm.
if there's any lack of demand or demand. I tend to do this on the county level for an acreage band, not the zip code level, because there's not a lot of data. Uh,
Right.
but once you have a county that you're looking at, it's a sweet shift, and it's so
Yeah.
fast to be able to see, okay, from 40 to 100 acres you got 9.9k down to 4.5, and that jumps from 9.9 to up to 22k an acre,
Hmm.
or yeah, price per acre. So that's a that's a massive shift.
But it's super
So
nice to do that without having to look at the whole map and everything like that.
mhm. Yeah, and I
Love
tend to
that.
just control find. So it's like if I know I'm targeting Tennessee, I'll target Tennessee and I'll look at my counties all there, and I'll do an analysis monthly. That just helps me understand where's most beneficial, where's that delta, because obviously every month you're
Hmm.
looking at new counties, so it's helpful to do that at least once a month. Uh, just different ways to do this. You can also do it on the map, right? If you were to look at the map, you look at those same data points. Uh, you could easily get the same concept down,
Hmm.
and doing that from range. Like some people are just visual, so you could come in
Right.
here and do it here. You could come down here to the table and do it down here as well, and see where's that delta shift as I move it from 10 to 20, 5 to 10 to 10 to 20, and see
Hmm.
how it increases. There's so many different ways to do it, to be honest. It's just a matter of finding ways that work best for your team and that you can streamline. So
Yep. I love it, dude. Dude, this is awesome. I appreciate you coming in. Like, I love seeing this from your eyes.
yeah, absolutely. Well, there's more ways to skin this cat, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
I probably have a bias on my own way of doing it, but I love to see how others come in and even just change the mold, because
Hmm.
there are other people who are focusing on things I don't focus on. I don't focus on entitlements. Subdivides, yes. Entitlements, not so much.
Right.
And the same is true with infills. I don't focus on infill lots. If you're out there doing infills, I'm not your competition.
Hmm.
So when people come in, they use Land Insights for something like that. They're using it in a way that definitely a minority of people are using this platform for. And I mean, I can't stress this enough. I don't know the exact count of users that we have, but this is like yeah, we have such a silly small number of users that in terms of the entire market of land investors, if you're trying to build a business, like this tool will help you build that consistency.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing out there that will help you streamline multiple facets of your business like this. And I think that that's the catch is there are people out there doing deals inconsistently,
Right.
and they're doing it without understanding what's getting them the deal, right? They're just sending out marketing and they're waiting for a lead. Whereas with Land Insights, I have found that as long as I build a consistent process, look, land is never going to be consistent. I've learned that over time. Everybody will fall into that same
Mm-hmm.
understanding over the course of time. You'll get 3 deals 1 month. Next month, you'll get nothing. Next month, you get 10 contracts. Next month, you get 3. So it's not going to be consistent. But if you have a consistent process, it's always going to pay dividends over time.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
So that's really where I've landed, and that's why I love the platform, and we use it so heavily in my own business.
Same. Awesome, man. Well, dude, drop in how do people reach out to you on the bottom. Like, I want people to reach out to you guys for LIA. I also dropped. See, guys, below. I have this Facebook group. The Land Investing Accelerator Facebook group is growing. It's awesome. We have a Discord. Discord's great. I love the Facebook group because it creates threads, and then we could communicate in that thread. It's searchable. So if like you have a question, like somebody asked a question today about seller finance, and it's awesome because later on, like 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road, you're like, hey, I want to look up seller finance. So you look it up, look at that whole thread of all the people that answered over time. Discord, you can't do that. I don't like that. Like I could actually go through a thread and look at all the replies for a specific question. So the only way this is going to work if people are signing up for the free Facebook group and if they are active. You can't just come in there, sign up, and not do anything. You actually have to comment, be active, introduce yourself, throw your name out there, do all that stuff. It's growing really quick. So let's just keep it growing really quick and everybody come in there and like ask questions, man. We're all there to answer.
Yeah. And I just put I think it actually just
You're good.
I think it actually just got wiped by my message there. But LIA members get a 14-day free trial. Landinsights.co/apply. You can get a demo. It's not a demo. It's a free market selection call. So we'll actually hop on with you, look at markets together, show you what the platform can do, and then send you 1,000 free leads. So that's pretty beneficial, if you ask me. Especially if it's just a freebie. You don't even want the data, or rather, you don't want the platform. You're just like, give me the free data. Look,
yeah, it's like $800 worth of data. Like that could be a deal.
Yeah, it could be much more, in terms of value, because if you get a deal from that data, who knows? It could be a subdivide. That could be a 50K profit flip. Like we just don't know.
Who knows?
But we want people to see the power of the platform. So it's a pretty big value prop right there. And then after you get the platform, again, I can't stress this enough. Streamline. Don't just fumble your way through it every single day. Find a way to streamline the business. I think I'm going to try and put some content out on this in the future, or at least in our course. Just making sure that people realize you can create SOPs and streamline and delegate this out. Like this is a big thing. Nobody has a platform that's this easy to understand, right? Like the benefit of this is it's so easy and intuitive that you can just share this with your team, and over time they have access to the course. They can figure it out themselves. They shouldn't have to, but they probably could. And the benefit is just being able to step away from the business and not lose confidence in what's happening. And that's just, it's such a huge move towards ultimate time freedom. Financial freedom is great, but I'm just the biggest proponent of
time freedom. You know that's my I love time freedom.
Yeah, and with your kids, like if you have kids out there, time freedom should be the first, like the major goal on your mind, in my opinion. I just think that, life's too short. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Dennis. I appreciate it.
I love it. I think people loved it. I think we should have you on again, kind of go more over this stuff. Maybe we'll actually pull some markets and scrub the data live.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. I'm happy to give away some free data as well.
Hell yeah, let's do that. Let's do that next time. Let's give away some free data to people.
Scrubbed. Yeah.
Free scrub data. Let's do it. I love it.
Sweet.
Awesome, brother. Good seeing you, man. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for hopping in.
Later.